Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, we're going to get you ready for some Monday Night Football. The Raiders and the Lions from the Motor City. All that and more coming up on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, October 30th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
Welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you. Definitely appreciate you. The growth of the show has been incredible, and that's because of you and because of my man Ari. Does a great job each and every day making sure we're up on YouTube. We definitely appreciate him and his efforts each and every day. You want to hit him up on Twitter, you can, at Ari Produces. You can always hit me up as well, at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693 on this Monday. We'll get to those calls and texts ahead of Monday Night Football. That will come up in segment number 3 of today's show. Got a lot of feedback that I want to get to as much as possible from you, so we'll do that in segment number 3. Segment number 2, keys to victory. I'll tell you off top, I picked the Raiders to lose this game. If you listen to the crossover edition on Thursday, you heard me say I don't see the Raiders winning this one just based off the way that the season has gone. But if the Raiders are going to win, I've got the blueprint. I know what they have to do to ensure a victory on Monday Night Football. We'll do that in segment number 2 of the show. Here in segment number 1, we'll do news and notes of the day, whatever collected over the weekend, as I always do. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And off top, want to go over the injury report from Saturday, the final injury report leading into today's Monday Night Football action. Of course, we'll find out who's in, who's out 90 minutes before kickoff. But on Saturday, the final injury report came out, and it says this. Devontae Adams was on it with the shoulder injury, but he was a full participant in practice all week long, so he's good to go. Jacorian Bennett, shoulder and knee injury, limited on Thursday, limited on Friday, full participant on Saturday, so it sounds like he's good to go tonight. Linebacker Curtis Bolton, knee injury, limited on Thursday, limited on Friday, limited on Saturday. He's questionable for the game today. Daniel Carlson, this is the big one. Kicker Cash Money Carlson, right groin injury, did not participate on Thursday or Friday, was limited on Saturday, and he's questionable for action coming up on the game later on this evening. Maxx Crosby, knee injury, limited. He's going to be good to go. Linebacker Divine Diablo, he is out. He had the ankle injury that he suffered on Sunday versus the Chicago Bears. Didn't participate on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. I saw him walking around the locker room on Saturday, and he looked okay, but he is officially out. So there'll be a lot of Luke Masterson and a lot of Robert Spillane. No Divine Diablo later on this evening. Jimmy G, good to go. The back injury, limited on Thursday, full participant Friday, Saturday. He'll get the start tonight, so there's no doubt there. Cornerback Nate Hobbs, he's been out with the ankle injury, limited on Thursday, limited on Friday, limited on Saturday, questionable for tonight's action. Cornerback Marcus Peters, back injury, didn't participate Thursday, fully or limited on Friday, and limited on Saturday. No status for him. And then Tyler Hall with a foot injury, wasn't listed on Thursday, full participant on Friday and Saturday. So outside of Divine Diablo, it sounds like there may be a question on Daniel Carlson, which is a big one, and Nate Hobbs and Marcus Peters will probably be the other two. I mean, it looks like Marcus Peters should be good to go, but when he was limited on Friday and Saturday, even though they didn't give him a game status, it kind of makes you feel like maybe there could be some question if he's going to play or not. For the Lions, they ruled out their guard, Jonah Jackson. He is out with the ankle injury. They also ruled out David Montgomery, who's dealing with a ribs injury, kind of the two that we thought were going to be out. So they're definitely out. Benito Jones, their defensive tackle, ankle injury. He's questionable. Center Frank Ragnow, toe calf injury. He's doubtful for the game. That could be a big deal. They'll have to have their backup center. That's Frank Ragnow is a really good piece to that offensive line. Linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, ankle injury, didn't participate on Thursday, limited on Friday and Saturday. He's questionable for the game. Their guard H. Valatal, back injury, limited on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. He's questionable for the game. And then defensive line Josh Paschal, knee injury, not listed on Thursday or Friday, didn't participate on Saturday. He's questionable for tonight, so that's also a big one. And then a last-second one, actually one that was added to the injury report on Sunday. This comes down from Eric Woodyard from ESPN, who's actually going to be on my radio show a little bit later on this afternoon, kind of giving us a last-second preview of this game. Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown has an illness and has been added to the game status report and is listed as questionable for Monday's game. I'm sure he's going to go, but interesting little note from Woodyard right there. That came down on Sunday, so clearly he came down with some kind of illness, so that's definitely something to pay attention to. But as I mentioned, 90 minutes before kickoff, we'll find out who's active and who's inactive. Also, on Saturday, I saw this note from Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, said that the Raiders and Josh McDaniels had a team meeting to discuss everything and anything that had to do with the season, what was going on, and basically no punches held back, right? I mean, everything was a go. You could talk about anything that you wanted to, and apparently that happened. It sounded like it went really good. Here's Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network breaking down this meeting that they had on Thursday.
Thank you very much, Rich. Let's start in Las Vegas, where the Raiders are entering a critical stretch of their season. Coach Josh McDaniels, I'm told, opened the floor in a team meeting on Thursday to players, allowing them to voice all the frustrations that at times have bubbled over publicly during the team's 3-4 start. Guys like Maxx Crosby, Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs all spoke up, but so did players from every area of the roster. And nothing from personnel to scheme to culture to coaching was off limits. I'm told that the meeting was considered by players to be very positive. It was cathartic. They got a lot of things off their chest, a chance to bond a little bit and kind of emotionally reset before a big game Monday night against the Lions, Mike.
So I like the fact that they had that meeting. Now, you can only have those meetings like once, maybe twice throughout the course of a season, right? It's funny, in the NBA, the Bulls had a team-only meeting after game one, right? They had one game in the season, they had a team-only meeting. You can only do that so many times. But I'm glad to see that Coach McDaniels and the Raiders as a team had that meeting. I think that that's good, be able to throw whatever you want out there. Hey, I don't like the way this is going. I don't like the way I'm being used. I don't like the way that the offense is going. I think that we need to change the philosophy. Like, anything is on the table in those kind of meetings. So I think that that's a positive step. And again, you heard from Tom Pelissero, sounds like it went really well. Anybody from any kind of position group, offensive line, special teams, defense, whatever the case may be, had an opportunity to speak. So we'll see what it looks like later on this evening for Monday Night Football. And the guy who's returning to Michigan, how about Maxx Crosby? Played his college football at Eastern Michigan, so he's returning home. When we got a chance to catch up with him in the locker room on Saturday, didn't really have a lot of chance to catch up with very many players. They got out of there pretty quickly. I mean, they're ready to get home and relax, and that's just kind of how it is on Saturday. It's very scatter shooting, very hit or miss, but we did catch up to Maxx Crosby and really just asked him about, being able to go to Detroit, which is right up the street from where he played college at Eastern Michigan. Here's Crosby in the Raiders locker room.
It's going to be incredible. I'm super excited. Obviously going to have a lot of family, friends in attendance. So, yeah, it's my first time playing back in Michigan. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
A matchup, you don't play against Aiden, but, obviously there's a lot of talk about him, a lot of talk about you. Like, are those the kind of things that get you juiced up?
No, I focus on, myself and what I can do to be the best version of myself. I'm not here to compare, nothing like that. I'm out there to, be the best, regardless. So we don't play against each other, so no, it's not on my mind.
Lions are a team you kind of followed at all. Being up there, being around them, not too far. I know they weren't too good back at the time, but did you watch them closely?
Yeah, I grew up, I was a diehard Lions fan, so, I definitely wanted, in the draft process, I wanted to, stay close to home, but it is what it is.
Who did you watch from those guys, from those teams? Like, who was your guy?
My favorite player was Megatron, Ndamukong Suh, Ziggy Ansah, Jason Jones, Eastern Michigan guy as well. Matthew Stafford, I was a huge Stafford fan. Joique Bell, Reggie Bush, DeAndre Levy, Steven Solik. They had those teams back then. I feel like they were way too damn talented to lose that many games. But they had some good years. They had like a couple 10-win, 11-win seasons. I feel like they never should have fired Jim Caldwell, but that's just my opinion. But yeah.
It's going to be cool to have a lot of your guys from Eastern Michigan also at the game too.
Of course. I get to see my coach and AD from Eastern on Sunday when we get there. We got a big announcement coming, so really excited for that. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot of my people to be in attendance.
So there's Maxx Crosby right there. Just a quick hitter with him. He didn't sound like he was feeling the greatest. I don't want to say that he was sick, but you can kind of hear it in his voice that he wasn't as upbeat as normal. I know that he had came out of a meeting right before we had an opportunity. Matter of fact, he was the one guy that we were holding out just to get an opportunity to talk to because he hadn't talked to the media all week long, so we wanted to get a chance to catch up with him. Only got, a couple minutes and just kind of let him go, really based off of him going back to Michigan. And, we know Maxx Crosby's going to bring it, right? And he's going to be fired up, pumped up. He's going to have a lot of family and friends in attendance, so that should be a lot of fun for him. So that's the news and notes collected over the weekend heading into tonight's game. Coming up in segment number 2, keys to victory. We'll look at the defense. We'll look at the offense. We'll look overall what the Raiders need to do to upset the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football later on this evening. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about our partners at eBay Motors and the fact that they've teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. It doesn't matter if you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire. Every single week, we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's go ahead and check to see who Vinny has picked. Let's see. He's looking at wide receiver Garrett Wilson, C.J. Stroud, Devontae Smith. Let's see what he has to say about Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith. He said Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith has cooled off a little bit after a hot start to the season, but he can get revved up again for a rematch against the Commanders' pass defense in Week 8. He caught 7 in 9 targets for 78 yards in a solid performance against them in Week 4. But with A.J. Brown blowing up of late, expect Washington to try to contain him with coverage and leave some more favorable downfield opportunities available for Smith. Smith is capable of exploding in any game, and the Eagles should want to get him more involved to restore the complete danger of their passing game with Jalen Hurts. I want to say, matter of fact, I'm right. Matter of fact, Vinny, the Eagles played the Commanders on Sunday. Oh, man. All right, Vinny, well, you have to give us an update. Anyway, Devontae Smith is a really good player for the Eagles. How about that? I'll give you the advice. Devontae Smith is a really good wide receiver. You might want to pick him up. I'm no fantasy expert. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. But Vinny Iyer is a fantasy expert. Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your car needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. Keep your ride or die looking really good and running great at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into keys to victory. I do this each and every show right before a game, whether it's a Friday before a Sunday, if it's a Sunday before a Monday, well, Monday obviously before a Monday, it's a Wednesday before a Thursday, whatever the case may be, that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and jump into keys of victory, offense, defense, and just overall what the team needs to do to get a win. And we'll start with the defense because the defense was the most disappointing for me last week against the Chicago Bears. First and foremost, they need to stop the run. There's no David Montgomery, but they still have Jahmyr Gibbs, the rookie, and Craig Reynolds. Both those guys could run. They want to run the ball. Detroit does. They want to stay as balanced as possible. They want to be a physical team. They're averaging over 100 yards on the ground per game. They want to do that, right? They're made in the image of their head coach, Dan Campbell, who's a very physical dude. So, of course, they want to have that physicality. They want to get behind that big offensive line, that strong physical offensive line, and run downhill. They want to make life a little bit easier on Jared Goff. They want to have that very blue-collared approach. So they've got to be able to stop the run, make the Lions as one-dimensional as possible. Again, no David Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs and Craig Reynolds, they can get it done. Also, the Raiders' defensive line, they're going to have their work cut out against that offensive line that I was talking about. They've got 2 of the best tackles in the league, in Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker. Those are 2 guys that can get it done. So I know Maxx is going to bring every effort that he can. I mean, his name is Maxx with 2 X's for a reason. That's just how he goes, right? He's going to bring it. But someone else on that Raiders defensive line is going to have to bring it. And, there's going to be a game where, it's going to be Patrick Graham is going to have to dial up some I don't want to say exotic blitzes, but have to get a little creative. Let's put it like that to try to get to Jared Goff because, again, those bookend tackles, man, are really good. I want to give a lot of respect to Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker who find ways to get it done. Now, I know Penei Sewell's coming off a bad game against Baltimore. Sometimes those are going to happen. I expect him to fully bounce back. So they're going to have their work cut out for him for sure. But someone along that defensive line has got to get there besides Maxx Crosby, right? And I know that Tyree Wilson got his first sack. He was credited with his first sack last week against Chicago, kind of on a wonky play to end the first half. But whatever. He's ramping up a little bit. He's looking a little bit more confident. He's sounding a little bit more confident. He's got to continue to go. At some point, he's going to have to go, full steam ahead, especially if the Raiders don't make a move by the trade deadline. And who knows if they're going to or not, right? Probably most likely they won't. But if they don't get some help in there on that defensive line, he's going to have to really step up. Malcolm Kuntz is going to have to continue to try to get home and bring the pressure that he's bringing. But really, it's been the Maxx Crosby show, and that's it. So somebody else is going to have to help out because those bookends, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, they ain't no joke. And also, and I think this should be a no-brainer, but since it was so bad last week, it's got to be talked about. They got to wrap up. They've got to eliminate the missed tackles. I'm all for going for the ball. I'm all for the peanut punch out, the Charles Woodson punch. I get it. I'm all for that, which is what every defender tries to do. They try to punch it out. They try to reach in and snap, yank it out. I get that. I'm all for turnovers. I talk about turnovers all the time. I'm with that. But they can't have as many missed tackles as they had on Sunday against the Bears. They were credited with Pro Football Focus for 13 missed tackles, and 4 of them were by Marcus Peters alone. They've got to be better than that. That just can't happen. That's why that's something that I've talked about and asked Coach McDaniels, asked Coach Graham about throughout the course of the week during the media sessions. It's like, I mean, come on, something's got to give. The first and foremost job is to get to the ball carrier and get him to the ground. I'm all for, like I said, going for the turnover. One guy's got to be there to wrap up, get him to the ground or whatever, and wait for the cavalry to get there, and maybe they can start taking swipes at the ball. That's fine. But they just can't have that many missed tackles that they did. If they have that many missed tackles against the Lions, it's going to be a long day at the office. It really will. And we'll be talking tomorrow about another embarrassing loss. Not because it's a bad team in the Lions, but just because that's a bad performance by the Raiders defense. So they've got to wrap up, got to eliminate those missed tackles. 13 of them they got credited with for Pro Football Focus, 4 by Marcus Peters. Offensively, Jimmy G is back. We know that. So the offensive line's got their work cut out for them. They've got to protect him, right? And Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive lineman for the Lions, is a problem. Now, he only has 4.5 sacks on the season, but he will get pressure on the quarterback. And he traditionally lines up where Thayer Munford or Jermaine Illuminor are on that right side. So that could be a problem, right? Because those guys, you just don't know who's going to be in there. I feel like there's going to be more Thayer Munford than Jermaine Illuminor, but whatever way you look at it, right? I mean, Lincoln Kennedy tells me all the time, Thayer Munford is a much better power blocking scheme, offensive lineman, and Jermaine Illuminor is a better zone blocking scheme. So sometimes if those two get in there at the same time, it could really create some confusion along that offensive line. Aiden Hutchinson is not a guy that you want to get confused with, right? I mean, we know Jimmy G is not going to run around the yard, but we also know that, well, at least I believe that the best chance for the Raiders to win is with Jimmy G under center. So they're going to have to keep him protected. They're going to have to keep him upright. They just can't let him get hit. If he continues to get hit, he's going to be out, right? And even when he does get protected pretty well, there's still a good chance for him to get injured because that's just kind of who he is. They've got to do the best job they can. Also, when it comes to the offensive line, they got to help that run game get going. The Raiders have to continue to try to run the ball. I know it hasn't been successful. And I know the Lions are real stingy when it comes to the run defense. They're only allowing 76 yards per game on the ground. I get that. But the Raiders have to try to run. They have to try to get a run game established. It doesn't have to be 100-something yards. I'm not saying that, but they have to be able to try to stay as balanced as possible. Jimmy's not cut out. Aiden Hutchinson's not cut out. Or Aiden O'Connell, is not cut out. Brian Hoyer's not cut out to drop back and throw the ball 45 times. They're just not, right? I mean, that's not who they are. This Raiders team, with the players that they have, has to try to be as balanced as possible. I know the run game hasn't been working. I get that. Something's got to give. They've got to try to keep that thing going. So Josh Jacobs has got to get going. We never got a chance to talk to him throughout the course of the week. I only got in the Raiders locker room on Saturday and didn't see him. Didn't see him at all. When I was leaving, though, I saw him in the lunchroom. So at that point, that's obviously too late. You can't talk to a guy in the lunchroom. But yeah, didn't get a chance to catch up with him. So don't really know where his mindset is at. I know he wants more than anything for his his performance to be a lot better, but he's going to need help from the guys up front, that offensive line. And then finally for the offense, you got to stay ahead of the chains, right? In the red zone. That's something that Coach McDaniels talks about all the time. He says it's not the play calling's fault in the red zone. What's really going on is all the issues that they have as far as shooting themselves in the foot, penalties, right? Negative plays, chances that they have that they don't take. There's too many times that, he's been able to say it's the executions problem. It's the penalties problem. So, okay, cool. Get in the red zone. Really, this is, for the whole time they're out there offensively, this is not a team that's really good at playing behind the sticks, but in particular when they're in the red zone, right? A team that's only averaging 16 points per game, that's not going to win anything. You're not going to win any games. Only averages 16 points per game. You're just not. So they've got to find a way to get over 20. They've got to score multiple times in the red zone, and the best way to do that is stay ahead of the chains. They just can't afford for stupid penalties, holding penalties, offensive pass interference, right? False starts, and then just playing throwaways or bad negative plays, right? Josh Jacobs run for negative yards. They've got to be able to stay ahead of the chains against this team. Again, the Lions are a very physical team, and they're going to want to put that physicality on the silver and black, especially at home. Ford Field, it's homecoming night. Plenty of Lion greats are going to be returning to Detroit, so they're going to be amped up. They're going to be lathered up, and they're going to be ready to get after the Raiders. And overall, Coaching. The coaching needs to stay aggressive, right? The Raiders have actually done really good on fourth downs so far this season. They're 8 for 9. So they've been doing really good there. But the coaching needs to be just aggressive. Take some shots down the field. On some opportunities maybe that you would kick a field goal, go for the touchdown, right? Show your offense that you believe in them. Show your team that you believe in them, right? Take a few chances. I'm okay with that, right? If Josh McDaniels calls up a few plays that may be a little risky, taking a few chances, and it doesn't work out, I can live with that. I really can, because at least I know that there's being maximum effort to try to win this game, as opposed to being down 8 and kicking a field goal and then you're only down 5 like that. Just show confidence in your team that you believe that they can go get it done, and then also the Raiders got to weather the storm. Remember, the Lions are coming off a bad loss to Baltimore. I mean, they got whooped, right? They're coming back home. Their crowd's going to be fired up. It's going to be an early storm that's going to hit them. They've got to weather that, and they've got to start off fast, right? I mean, that's the thing. Weather the storm and start off, especially offensively, fast. Got to get into the end zone. They've done a pretty good job in the first quarter, but they just have always had problems sustaining it. But they've got to do that again, and probably more than ever, since it is Monday Night Football, since they are going to be all lathered up, ready to go, they've got to be able to sustain that. So that's what I got for you. Those are keys to victory. Again, I picked the Raiders to lose this game. I'm okay with being wrong. Matter of fact, I hope I'm wrong. I hope tomorrow we're talking about the fact that I was absolutely wrong and the Raiders went in there and won the game, and now they're sitting there at 4-4, and they still have an opportunity with a tough Giants team coming to town, followed by a tough Jets team coming to town, followed by a trip to Miami, followed by a game against Kansas City. Like, they've got a tough stretch right here, so it'd be great to be able to go into Detroit, go into the belly of the beast, and get a victory on Monday Night Football. That's all I got for you for segment number 2, Keys to Victory. What's on your mind? Segment number 3, your calls and texts. Straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll get to that right after I tell you about DoorDash. And I'll tell you, man, there's times when DoorDash is a must, right? Even sitting around on Sunday watching football, since there was no Raider game, it's like, man, want to have some friends over, want to get some food and some drinks, but what do? I really don't want to go to the store. I don't want to go pick something up. I'm kind of being lazy because it's like a day off. You know what? Let's DoorDash some food to the house. So DoorDash came in clutch on Sunday, was able to bring some Pizza Rock to the house, and got some really good food, and had some friends over watching the other football games that were on. And so DoorDash comes in handy. Now, I don't use DoorDash. The wife does, right? Because I'm just not that dude. But the wife does it, and it's great. But if you haven't used DoorDash and you want to use DoorDash, well, you can get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. And that's the beauty of it. Like, if you're like me and really I just don't use it because I don't want to say I don't know how to do it. I'm just not good at it. So I just really haven't even attempted. So the wife always bails me out and does it. But, if you don't want to be like me, again, you could just download the DoorDash app right now. You'll get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Again, don't forget, use the promo code LOCK23 for 50% off up to $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more, subject to change, terms apply. Get all the food you want, get game ready. Maybe you're going to do it for Monday Night Football. You need all the snacks at the house. DoorDash will make that happen for you. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Raider Down Under. He's calling to talk about the lack of a run game and also addresses the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. Here he is, Raider Down Under.
Hey, Q. It's Raider Down Under. Hey, just want to talk about this situation here with Josh Jacobs not getting any yardage. I don't really put it on Josh at all. That offensive line is constantly letting people go through. Josh constantly seems to be having to dodge people in the backfield. Guys there getting there a yard or two deep, and it's really hard to make yards that way. The other factor is, of course, the QB's unable to throw the ball effectively over 20 yards. As you've spoken about it many times, stack the box. And basically are making us try to beat them through the air, which we can't. And the other thing I have an issue with is both offensive and defensive line play. We cannot win if we don't control the line of scrimmage, and we just haven't been able to this year. Our defensive tackles don't seem to be doing a whole lot, and we've already gone over the offensive line and how they're basically having a hard time. In saying that, I don't think McDaniels needs to get fired at this stage. I think stability is more important than the season. I think the season's a wash anyways, but we need to let this new team have time to implement their vision and move on from there. If we don't have stability, it's going to be hard to get other qualified coaching, potential coaches down the line, which we will need if McDaniels and Ziegler don't work out. We're not going to get the top talent from moving on from somebody, a year and a half, 2 years every time. It's just, the top talent won't want that. They'll go to someone else. So that's all I have for you. Enjoy your podcast. Thanks, mate. Talk to you later.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And when it comes to Josh Jacobs, man, you're right. The O-line is not giving him any chance. He's dancing as soon as he gets the ball. He's literally 4 yards back in the backfield, and he's already trying to avoid a tackle, right? I mean, that's got to be frustrating. I know it's frustrating to him. He's a talented dude, and they just got to try, like I said in segment number 2, they've got to try to get him going. And the fact that they're not throwing the ball down the field, that just makes things that much more difficult as well. There's Lincoln Kennedy has told me many times that he talks to defensive coordinators around the league that said, we're not worried about the Raiders' offense. We're not worried about them throwing the ball down the field because they're not doing it. So we can load up the box and feel comfortable trying to stop Josh Jacobs and live with the short passes that Jimmy G or Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer, whatever the case may be, whoever's under center is going to do. So they've got to take some shots. That's, while I was talking about be aggressive, they got to take some shots or they're not really going to have an opportunity to get Josh Jacobs going, like you mentioned. So thanks for that call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Rob in Vegas. Says, hey, Q. It's Rob from Vegas, first-time caller or texter. I love the Raiders with everything I have, and, man, these last 2 years has been such a huge letdown. I heard a caller earlier say how this team isn't fun to watch anymore, and I agree. It's just not fun anymore. We have too many stars to go down like this. I don't know how they right this ship, but so many steps backwards. But I know the nation is feeling the same. Thanks for hearing me out. That's Rob in Vegas. And, yeah, that's the thing about it, especially offensively for me. It blows my mind that this team is not good offensively. I said 1,000 times during the offseason, during the preseason, during training camp, that the offense was going to be fine. It was the defense that I was concerned about. And, man, the offense just is anemic, right? Again, scoring 16 points a game is nothing. You're not going to win anything that way. It's really unfortunate because the defense is giving them some opportunities. Now, last Sunday, there was no fun anywhere. That game was just bad. That was a terrible performance. Nobody liked the way that it looked. Nobody liked the way that, that people performed and, the effort, everything. It was just all bad. So, there could become a time when these games aren't fun anymore because the team, just with a lot of talent, like you mentioned, isn't out there going out there and operating and executing the way that they should. It's just it's kind of embarrassing. But there's that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. I'll be locked in. I know Raider Nation will be locked in to see this game. I'm excited about what it looks like. Want to see what the outcome is. So thank you so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider Con Man in Frisco. He's calling to talk about the Hunter Renfrow situation and has a couple games that he wants to specifically talk about. Here he is, Raider Con Man.
What's up, Q? Raider Con Man here, checking in from Frisco, Texas. Cowboys country. I'm sick of these fans here, sick of it. But the Hunter Renfrow thing is what I'm calling about. I love Third and Renfrow, but I'm curious on your thoughts on this. And I've been thinking about what went wrong with the new regime and with Hunter. You remember last year in Kansas City, that game that we blew, classic for McDaniels, but when Hunter and Devontae ran into each other at the end of the game, which if you think about it, that's a disgrace that even happened. But Devontae was hot. I think a part of it was because of Hunter. Do you think McDaniels was done with him with Renfrow after that happened? I mean, the fumble, too, against the Cardinals in week 2, that was tough. But then running into Devontae maybe was just bad taste in his mouth, and he just didn't change on his thoughts. I don't know. But curious on your thoughts on that. Love the show. Raider Nation. Raider Con Man out.
Raider Con Man, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. And I don't think it's any specific game that they soured on Hunter. I really don't. I just think that it's a collective of different styles. The way that he gets open, the way that he runs routes is not just necessarily the way that they want him to run routes. They want him to be out there. I think that the way that he runs routes also takes time to get open, and that's not how this offense is supposed to go. Josh McDaniels was asked about Hunter Renfrow and the situation on Saturday. As a matter of fact, Vinny asked him because they were there. You know, the reports are out there from Jordan Schultz that the team has soured on him and that the relationship is fractured. And he basically said that was not true. Matter of fact, here is that question from Vinny Bonsignore and the response from Josh McDaniels about the relationship with Hunter Renfrow.
Josh, Hunter Renfrow's role and usage has kind of diminished over the last couple of years, going from 100 catches in 2021 to what's kind of happening right now. Is there a reason for how things have gone for him?
I think there's a lot of things that have happened over 2 years too. I mean, last year I think the biggest part of it was health and just being able to do the things that he was able to do the year before. I think this year, we've talked about this a lot. We got to do a better job of doing some things to try to find ways to have him integrated into the scheme. And again, I think some of it is circumstantial, honestly. Some of it is we maybe miss an opportunity, and some of it is you try to focus more on it and do it more. So I think there's a lot of things that can help improve that. He's obviously a guy that can help us produce, and he has in the past, and one of many that we would like to try to get more involved doing things that they're right down his alley, and his skill set can really be productive for us. So we'll see if we can turn a corner on that. There's other guys I'd say are in the same boat, but just offensively in general, produce from each position, every guy as much as we can. And again, there's one ball, but we got to start finding a bunch of different guys here to help them get into the flow of the game and help our offense be more productive.
I live in a time where people like to throw stuff out there, and there's maybe the relationship.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? Shocking. But we do, and so there's always something that's coming out, and one of the narratives has been that the relationship has been fractured with you and him, and I just wanted just to get that out there. What is the
No, that's not. Well, first of all, I don't know. I've never heard that, but that's certainly not the case. And I think Hunter's a great guy. I think Hunter's had a really productive career so far, and again, I think part of this is, I need to focus on the things I can do to help, that, continue to improve. And we have other players too, you know what I mean? And those guys, come along and do some things too. And, that's the nature of when you have skilled players that, they all want the ball and they all can do things to get the ball. And sometimes decisions, whether it's personnel groupings or scheme or what have you, that can affect that, obviously, So the bottom line is Hunter's still a really good football player and needs to be a part of our plan to help us win. And I need to do everything I can do to help ourselves do that.
So there you go. That's what Vinny asked, and that's Josh McDaniels' answer on Hunter Renfrow and the fact that, he's just obviously not being used. It's just the strangest thing to me about this whole situation is not that the player doesn't fit with what they're doing. It's just the fact that they gave him a contract extension and then the player doesn't fit, right? That's the biggest thing. But then again, we all know there was a contract extension for Darren Waller. There was a somewhat contract extension for Derek Carr, and none of those guys are with the team anymore. And Hunter Renfrow, I'd be shocked if he's with the team after Tuesday, but we'll see, right? I mean, his contract, the money on his contract is what's really holding up any kind of a trade. The value that he has right now is about $4 more million that they've got to pay him. And so I don't think teams around the league want to do that. But again, it kind of is what it is. So thanks so much for that call. I appreciate you. Up next is a text from Gonzo Raider from the 505. It says, hey, Q, Gonzo Raider from the 505 wanted to comment on some of the messages you received late last week on the podcast. I totally agree. We, the nation, need to stay loyal and show support to the team. The players have no control on coaching or coaching schemes, but we can still show them, the players, the support, despite feelings or opinions on coaching. All this talk of throwing the season, boycotting, not going to games because they're mad at they're mad at MD and Josh McDaniels is a sad excuse. It's Raiders all day, every day. I'll always be loyal to the team. I've supported them for over 40 years. Okay, the Bears game happened. Any given Sunday, no matter what happened, they need a short memory and focus on primetime showdown with the Lions. Let's go get this win, nation. Stay optimistic for the W. That's Gonzo Raider. And, yeah, I mean, that's just frustration. Raider Nation is going to be frustrated. I'm going to get frustrated. Everyone's going to get frustrated. Losing sucks. Let's just be honest about it. Losing sucks. Winning's great. Right? So when you're losing, you get frustrated. And please believe I get a lot of the frustration. People, hit me with a lot of the frustration, and I get it. It's Raider Nation's frustrated. I think a lot of times their energy is channeled in the wrong direction, but I get it. I totally get it. So, you want to see a winning product. It's been far too long since the Raiders have consistently been winners. So I totally understand the frustration. But, yeah, at the end of the day, Raider Nation is going to be supporting their team, whether they want to admit it or not. They will. They'll be sitting in front of the TV. They'll be at the game. They'll be at the bar, whatever the case may be. They'll be cheering on their team. And let someone talk bad about the Raiders, they'll be ready to, to have their back and, defend them. So that's just kind of what it is all the time. So thanks so much for that text. We'll close out with a call from Vader Raider in the 303. He's calling to talk about a story that Hondo Carpenter put out there late last week and wants to know the validity of it. Here he is, Vader Raider in the 303.
Q, Raider Nation. It's your boy Vader Raider. Q, first of all, Q, thank you for everything that you've done and all of that you will do. And good job on all your questions and your interviewing. And it's just really top notch and very professional. You're doing a great job there, trying to find out what's going on behind the scenes with the silver and black. Wanted to get your opinion on this Hondo Carpenter tweet that came out the other day, and it was a story that he linked. And this story basically was an insider claiming to be an insider, and of course, as you know as well as I, if it's not like Vic or you or Vinny or Tashawn or any of the Vegas sports writers, I don't really take any stock in it. But this one caught my eye because Hondo put a link to it, and basically the link is to a situation that occurred last year where the Raiders thought that they had Tom Brady, lock, stock, and barrel. And then things happened in his life, and by then, the relationship between them and Derek was fractured. But apparently the plan was not to let Derek Carr go. The plan was to keep Derek Carr, which, and then there's another option out there apparently that Hondo is not really going to talk about, but he knows what the option was. So I just kind of wanted to get your opinion and see what you thought, if, this is true or if there's any validity to it. Maybe you could do some research on it, and maybe we could find out if indeed, it's too late now because Jimmy wasn't option A. Jimmy was like the third or fourth option. So I don't know. Anyway, Raider Nation, I hope you have a great week, and see you soon. Vader Raider, out.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, Hondo's someone I know really well. He works here in Las Vegas. He's, from SI.com. And look, I'm not an insider. I never claimed to be an insider. I'm not trying to be an insider. Vinny, Vic, Tashawn, Paul Gutierrez, those guys are all insiders for sure, right? And Hondo has, he's I guess he's a guy that's an insider as well. He claims to be an insider. I don't know. I don't know who Hondo talks to. I know he's really good friends with Brian Hoyer, so maybe that's who he talks to. And as far as the whole quarterback thing, one, I think that's such an old conversation. I don't even know why he brought it up, but he did. And I know it's gotten a lot of traction. So, there's probably some validity to it. Again, I don't know Hondo as far as the people that he talks to. I know him. I don't know who he talks to inside the organization, and that's why he's, an insider, and that's just what it is. Like, I have a good idea who Vinny talks to. I know who Vic and them talk to and all that, but outside of, those guys, I don't know who Hondo talks to. But the whole Brady thing, I don't think, and Josh Jacobs, and I'll actually let you hear the soundbite. This is going back to the Pro Bowl, February 4th, 2023. It was Pro Bowl practice, and we talked to Josh Jacobs, and he said that there was 3 quarterbacks that the Raiders were looking at, and Tom Brady, he said he felt was a contingency plan. So I'll let you hear what Josh Jacobs had to say. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is going back to February 4th. He's asked about if, they could win with the Raiders. He thinks he could win with the Raiders. They could put a winning team together, and it leads to the quarterback question. So here it is.
I think that we got a great opportunity too. Like I've been saying all last year, I feel like, we was always so close. And so that really just come with them getting the right people in there, the right guys, getting some more guys on defense, get some more guys up front, like things like that. Obviously now the quarterback situation, I think that play a big part of what I want to do too, like if I come back or not, So it just depends.
Do you want, you haven't talked to them, but do you want to talk to them like who they're going to try to get a quarterback?
Oh, no. Yeah, we talked about that like kind of like towards the end of the season. So I kind of know where their head is at. You know, I'm not gonna speak on who they. I'm not gonna speak on where they leaning to. But I know they the three that they looking at. So we'll see.
One's already retired though.
I don't know nothing about nothing. I feel like that was a contingency plan. You feel me?
So that's Josh Jacobs, right? I'll take what Josh Jacobs has to say about the quarterback situation over anybody, over any insider, over anybody, right? A guy that's inside the organization, a guy that's talking to the front office, talking to Dave Ziegler, talking to Champ Kelly, talking to Josh McDaniels about plans. He felt Tom Brady was a contingency plan. I mean, again, none of it matters. That's why I don't really know why Hondo brought it up, but he did. So, okay, cool. It's all over and done with. Once Derek got sat down, they weren't bringing him back. It was not a chance that he was going to come back. He wouldn't have came back just based off that, right? They weren't going to sit him down behind Tom Brady or any of the other stuff. So, I mean, I guess it is what it is, but you know, there you go. I don't really know how to answer it because I'm not inside Hondo's head and I don't know who he's talking to, so I can't really specifically break down and answer something for someone else. That's probably something you probably need to tweet at Hondo, and he could probably give you a better answer at the best. So that's really all I got for you, but that's all I got for the show as well. Monday Night Football, it's going down. Primetime action, Raiders and Lions, Motor City. It's going to be a hell of a game, right? Exciting. Two storied franchises, right? Taking it back to the old days. You know, good stuff right there. So I'm looking forward to it, that's for sure. And I'm hoping that the Raiders come out with a lot more energy and excitement and, effort than they did against the Bears and possibly come out with that W, man. Hopefully we're talking about a W tomorrow. We'll see what it is, but enjoy the game, Raider Nation, and we'll talk again tomorrow here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Until then, as always, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.